Hello, and welcome to the Catching the Octopus podcast. Here, we will explore how connecting inward gives us an advantage outward. We openly talk about the obstacles and challenges and difficulties that life throws our way and how they become moments of gratitude and things that can benefit us when we look back on our lives. I'm your host, Niomi Hurley, and it is my mission to bring you top quality guests that will share with you openly their obstacles and also the techniques they use to go inward that strengthens the way that they serve themselves and others at the highest level. Thank you for joining. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. Today, I want to do a recap on an interview that I did with Jayden Williamson. So Jayden is the owner of JD's Music in our town of Bunbury, and he also runs the arts department at a local high school, and he's gigging and playing in bands and has just this huge love of music. So 3 key elements that came out of my conversation with Jayden was consultation, collaboration, and teamwork. Jayden spoke about how he connected with the people in his team around the COVID situation, how they adapted, how at the end of it, they actually didn't have differing student numbers, and especially they expected them. It was nothing like they expected. It was just a normal transitioning phase that they would normally experience with numbers and the number fluctuations. And that was all come about their approach. Right, the staff, the team all got together and actually consulted and communicated and come up with ideas, and through those ideas, and for a workplace to be in a psychologically safe space, that actually allows that collaboration to happen. That allows all of that open communication, and no idea is a silly idea, all of those sorts of things. And that actually allowed them to adapt and go into that online space and continue those lessons. And that was really important, not just for JD's music school, but it was really important for the students themselves. So my daughter at the time was doing violin and piano with 2 different teachers at the school. And that actually gave her an opportunity to do something while we're in lockdown, right? So she could still jump on and she could still do learning and, take in some interaction with other people and just have some sort of normality in her life when everything around was not normal. It was far from it, especially for kids, right? And for people that love that personal interaction. When we're actually locked up in our home, it can be really debilitating and cause some really serious mental health issues. So when you are communicating and collaborating and consulting and just having that open space where you're accepting everyone's views, as a leader, it actually allows you to challenge your own views. It allows you to come up with different ideas, and it allows you to actually piece things together. Sometimes as a leader, we put these high expectations on ourselves that we have to have all the answers. But leadership isn't about having all the answers. Leadership is about collaborating and collecting enough information that'll allow the right answers to appear before us. Leadership is sometimes stepping back and letting others run with what they need to run with. Leadership is about being in a space where it's not about me, it's about the community, right? It's about everyone, how I can serve everyone at our highest good and what will bring the biggest and best outcomes. In my chat with Jayden, we also spoke about some of the people that he's attracted into his life, into his school, into his bands, the people he's gigged with. And one of the things that was really evident to me is that he's attracting some really high caliber people. And I posed a question to him and I said to him, how do you attract these people? And he said how he stumbled across them, and he told some of the stories of how they came about. But we end up being the sum of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. You may have heard that before, or you may not have, but we tend to pick up the energy with the people around us.
If you're enjoying this podcast and you want Niomi or any of her guests featured on your podcast or as a keynote speaker at your next event, you'll find their contact details included in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about how you can work with Niomi individually or as part of your strategy to improve leadership in your business, then review the courses, offers and services at getupandgroconsulting.com.au.
If we're in a room of 5 people that are always grumpy, it doesn't matter how great our outlook on life is. Telling you now, there will be a time where you'll end up feeling grumpy. And the same as if you're with people that are inspirational, right? It'll change the way you look at life. And Jayden, the way that he approaches life and his open-mindedness and his, strong communication and ability to collaborate just attracted some really great high caliber people. Some of the teachers in his school have actually been playing at state orchestra level, have studied and in universities overseas, have just some great stories to tell about their musical journeys, right? And their careers in music. And Jayden also spoke about some of the people that he's played with, some of the people he's set up bands with, some of the people that he's gigged with, and how when we're in that space, it brings out the best in us. There's one story in particular that he tells that he could actually feel with the energy with everyone, how great it was. And at the end, he was actually like, that was awesome on one of the rehearsals that he did. And when we can find the tribe around us that brings out the best in us, then how lucky are we? Now, sometimes they fall in our lap, like they have kind of for Jayden. And sometimes we have to seek them out. And myself, I actually set up a mastermind. So I couldn't find a mastermind locally that was able to give me that. So I set one up, spoke to a few people, entrepreneurs around town, and we're actually like, hey, you're keen to catch up on a regular basis. We can share our wins. We can share our challenges. We can challenge each other. We can keep each other accountable. And we can just meet and just be a support network in that space. And then I got to surround myself with some really high caliber people that were having similar experiences to me, but also were different thinkers to me. And because they were different thinkers, they were able to get me to see things from a different perspective. And with any luck, I hope that I can give that same value as well. And you can get these sorts of groups through different clubs. You can get them through different, you can pay to go into masterminds or memberships. There's Facebook groups. There's so many ways that you can surround yourself with the people that you need. And it's not about eliminating people out of your life, right? There might be people in your family or your friend group that aren't really, pushing or celebrating for you to get to where you think you can be, or even every day, they might be a little bit challenging, but we don't have to get rid of them. We just need to add more people into our network, right? Because like I said, we're the sum of the people we surround ourselves with, and there's going to be outliers. There's going to be people way up here, 50,000 feet, as Chris Cowan says. You can see his comments in his interview. Or there's going to be people that are down here in their energy and their perspective and the way they look. And that's okay, because we're all uniquely wonderful individuals and we all have and see things from different perspectives. But when you can consciously choose who you surround yourself with, then you can start attracting more of that goodness. And Jayden also spoke about that time where you lose your passion. He'd been in a musical career all of his life and he lost his passion. And he lost his passion because there were some personal things going on with the people around him, and he didn't have the same access to those inspiring people and the band that he was playing with. And it just became a bit of a chore. And so sometimes we miss that. right? We get in a space where we're repeating and we're doing this thing over and over and over again, and we actually start to lose the joy and we start to lose the passion. And with Jayden, that was a space that he got in, and he stopped gigging. He actually said, I'm done. I'm not going to be gigging anymore. And it took a very close friend for him to actually really convince him to get in a room, right? And once he got in the room with the right people, the spark came back. He reignited his spark and his passion for gigging. I mean, he said he always loved music. He always loved working in music and what he was doing, but the gigging aspect, he actually lost that passion for a period of time. But when he was in the right room, surrounded with the right people, he ended up getting that passion back. And so when we think of our teams as well as leaders, we need to think, what's happening within this team? How can I fill this team with people to bring that average up? How can I motivate this team? In summary, they're watching. Everyone around you is watching you, consciously or unconsciously. And so what we're doing is going to be remembered on an unconscious or subconscious level or a conscious level, and people will replicate that if we're seen to be a leader for them. So we need to consider that. We need to look at how we consult with people, how we collaborate with our team members, and how we can create those psychologically safe spaces so people can bring up the silly questions, right? The silly suggestions, and feel safe doing so. How people can question us as leaders and feel safe doing so. How they can report incidents and how they can bring up issues in the business and feel safe doing so. And then another key element is surrounding yourself or ourselves with these wonderful people that inspire us and that bring us up and that bring the best out of us. And then also looking at how you can create teams that will do the same for the people within the team. So if you haven't already, jump on, catch Jayden's interview. I'm sure somewhere in there, there'll be some added value and some gold nuggets that will come through for you. And I look forward to seeing you and serving you in the next Catching the Octopus podcast. Thanks for joining in and listening to this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. It's been great having you here. And if you'd like to go and like and subscribe and maybe even leave a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, I'd really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.